قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. O you who believe, seek help through patience, perseverance, and prayer. Indeed, God is with the patient. And do not say about those who are innocently killed in the way of God, they are dead. Rather, they are alive, but you perceive it not. And be sure that you will be tested with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits of your toil. But give good tidings to those who patiently persevere. Those who, when afflicted with calamity or disaster, say, indeed, we belong to God, and indeed to God we will return. Those are the ones upon whom descend blessings from their Lord and mercy. And it is those who are rightly guided. Quran, chapter 2, verses 153 to 157.
Thank you, Arbeid Graves and Samawiya Akhtar. Assalamu alaikum. May peace be unto each and every one of you. I am very humbled to be standing before you, very saddened to be standing before you in this event. But at the same time, I'm very proud to be at this event because I see each and every one of your faces here as a testament that we will not let hate dictate what we do. We will not let hate and the speech of hate change the way we think of each other. We will always love each other and we will always be here for each other. I'm positive that each and every one of you is here today for the noble cause of humanity, for the noble cause of being there for your brother and sister, be it your Muslim brother or sister, your Christian brother or sister, your Jewish brother or sister, your Sikh brother or sister, and any other brother or sister. I'm very humbled to be standing before you. We are here collectively to say that we are united against hate. We are here collectively to say that we are united against hate. To those who like to spew hate and like to speak the rhetoric of hate, we're very clear about why we're here. We're here because you will not destroy our spirit. You will not destroy our resolve. Again, we are united against hate and those who spew it. We are also here because we agree that terror has no place in our communities. We're here to agree that terror has no place in our places of worship. We are here to agree that terror does not have a religion. Terror does not have a color. Terror does not have an ethnicity. It does not have a race. We are here to say that we are united against terror and we are united against hate. On behalf of the Muslim community, on behalf of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here. And I would like to express our love for each and every one of you. And again, I thank you for being here. I'd like to call Yassine Najib and Ufair Sheikh to read us the names of those who were martyred in New Zealand. We do have their pictures of the ones that we could find. We have their pictures up here as well. And then we will have a moment of silence.
Musa Ibrahim,
Sayad Mil, 14 years.
Khalid Mustafa and son Hamza Mustafa,
Naeem Rashid and son Talha Rashid, age 21.
Anzi Ali Baba, age 25,
Arif Vora and son Ramiz Vora.
Farhaj Ahsan, age 30,
Mujammal Haq, age 30.
Ata Al-Ayan, age 33,
Sayyid Jahandad, age 34.
Hussein Al-Umari, age 36,
Usama Adnan Abu Quick, age 37.
Kamal Darwish, age 39,
Harun Mahmoud, age 40.
Husnain Parveen, age 42,
Muhammad Imran Khan, age 47.
Dr. Amjad Hamid, age 57,
Abdul Fattah Qasim Al-Doki, age 59.
Linda Armstrong, age 65,
Ali Al-Madani, age 65.
Dawood Nabi, age 71,
Lilik Abdul Hamid.
Sohail Shahid, age 33,
Sayyid Arib Ahmad, age 27.
Ghulam Hussain, age 64, and his wife Karam Bibi, age 63, and their son Zishan Raza, age 38.
Mahbub Qawqar.
Ozair Kadir, age 24.
Hafid Musa Patel.
Munir Sulaiman, age 68.
Ahmad Jamaluddin Abdul Ghani, age 68.
Abdul Samad, age 66.
Zakaria Bhuyan.
Musa Nur Asle, age 77.
Mohsen Al-Harbi.
Junaid Ismail, age 36.
Matullah Safi, age 55.
Abdul Qadir Almi, age 70.
Hussein Mustafa, age 70.
Tariq Omar, age 24.
Muhammad Umar Farooq, age 36.
Ali Isa Houri,
Hafiz Shuaib, age 17.
Ashraf Al Mursi,
Ashraf Al-Masri.
Abdullah Diri, age 4.
And Ashraf Ali, age 58. In honor of these 51 people, let us have 51 seconds of silence, 1 second for each precious life lost in Christ Church. Thank you. Next, we have the president of the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition, Sister Janan Najib, with a message on behalf of the Milwaukee Muslim community.
Thank you, Afaida, and thank you, Yassine. Thank you also to Obaid, who read the Quran beautifully, and then to Samaria, who did the translation. Thank you to all of our guests. You fill our hearts with your presence here today. I'd like to thank all of our dignitaries that are here. We cannot announce all of your names, all of the elected officials, all of the law enforcement officials, all of the religious leaders, all of the organizational leaders, and all of our friends and neighbors that have joined us today as our hearts are breaking. On behalf of the Muslim community, we thank you for joining us. It is a reminder that we do not stand alone. We may be children of different traditions, but we stand together in solidarity, recognition, and celebration of our common humanity. Yes, celebration of our common humanity. This is a reminder to our interconnected world, our country, our state and cities, but most importantly, to ourselves, that we stand united against hate. While we know this tragedy happened halfway around the world, we also know this same hate has impacted us in our own backyard. As Muslims, we believe that if we bring comfort to the heartbroken, we will find God there. If we rush to help the sick and injured, we will find God there. If we feed the hungry and provide drink to the thirsty, we will find God there. If we care for the orphan that cries alone at night, we will find God there. If we give protection for those fleeing for their lives, we will find God there. And when we stand with our neighbor in their hour of need, we will find God there. Surely this evening, God's mercy and knowledge is here. When we think of the unspeakable pain caused by the terrorist who will remain unnamed, we need to recall the words of Ambreen Naim. One of the things that stood out to me as I see the pictures and the names and the many countries of origin is that they are like the United Nations of many countries. Ambreen Naim was on the phone with her 21-year-old son as he was shot and killed at Al-Noor Mosque in New Zealand. She lost not only her son that day, but also her husband. Yet through her inexplicable pain, with complete calmness, she said that she feels sadness and pity for the terrorist. Because for someone to have so much hate in their heart, it means that they have never really experienced or truly felt love, contentment, and peace. What motivates people to walk so arrogantly on this earth and either cause or instigate such bloodshed and misery? Some are people that truly believe they are a superior form of creation, and they believe in a God that somehow seems to hate the same people they do. Others are failed human beings that need a scapegoat to blame for their failures in life. And then there are others who benefit politically by creating division and discord. It is very unlikely that our founding fathers who came up with the First Amendment imagined the sinister corners of the digital world filled with online hate rhetoric that crosses borders at lightning speed. Hate speech and hate rhetoric have victims. We need to stand together united to reject the growing Islamophobia, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-Black, and anti-immigrant bigotry in America and around the world. It is truly shameful for us as Americans when a white nationalist terrorist in New Zealand, prior to the attacks, calls himself a supporter of President Donald Trump, who he sees as a symbol of renewed white identity and common purpose. We have no credibility as a country when we go halfway around the world to bomb and kill brown people that instigate terror through hate speech, yet we turn a blind eye to white nationalists and white supremacists that live in our midst or work in our government, claiming to represent all Americans, yet spewing hate rhetoric day and night. Today, we say enough. We must stand united against the rhetoric of hate that promotes these type of violent acts. In the words of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, if we don't actively choose to be part of the solution, then it means we're part of the problem. I wanted to end with a letter to the terrorists that was circulating on the internet. People were adding their thoughts to it. I took the liberty of translating a few of the paragraphs. To the terrorist, you taught the world that the Muslim community believes the world is one big family when you were greeted as you approached the door with "Hello, brother." You taught the world that our congregational prayer is Friday afternoon and Muslims do not go armed to the mosque, that we are close-knit families that worship together. You taught the world that white nationalists walk arrogantly into houses of worship, while Muslims bow humbly before their Creator. You showed the world that you are the aberration, as tens of thousands of New Zealanders came out of their homes to visit the mosques, many that had never been there before. You showed the world that your hate is no match for the outpouring of love and messages of peace from around the world. Yes, you have broken many hearts and left a huge void, but you have strengthened our faith and our resolve. You aimed to divide New Zealand, and New Zealand responded by rejecting your kind with tougher gun laws and opening their parliament. I must add, it took them 6 days to enforce tougher gun laws. And then they opened their parliament with a reading from the Quran as representatives of many faiths came to stand in solidarity. That show of solidarity has been replayed not once, but thousands of times around the world, and tonight in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Maybe one day, racists will finally learn that their tactics will fail. During your life of freedom, you chose to imprison your mind and your soul. Now that your body will rot in prison, we want to offer you a verse from the Quran to think about. You'll have a lot of time to think. God says in the Holy Quran, "And among his most beautiful signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and colors. Truly in that are divine signs for those who choose to think." Thank you for being here this evening. I would like to invite Imam Nauman Hussein for his statement.
Good evening, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and peace be upon all of you tonight. Before I begin, I would like to request all of the clergy members in attendance tonight to join me on stage. If I can have all clergy members, regardless of denomination, religion, please join me on stage. So they'll be lifting the screen up in just hopefully a moment now. It's going on. To my fellow clergymen and women and leaders, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for standing with us. It was not too long ago that many of us were standing together at the synagogue, remembering the lives taken in Pittsburgh. And we see that unfortunately, this has become a trend within our communities and our societies. a trend of having to come together every time there is a horrific and tragic event of this matter. And unfortunately, I am sorry to say that this will not be the last of them. This will not be the last of them. And I don't say this with any happiness. I don't say this with any pride. This, unfortunately, is going to continue as long as we have hate, and as long as hate speech, as long as bigotry, as long as racism, as long as xenophobia, as long as Islamophobia exist within our communities. As an imam, when I first saw the news, my heart sunk, thinking about the moments where I stand in front of my congregation preaching to them, seeing the beautiful faces of a diverse community, the young, the old, the children, the women, the men, some of them bowing their heads down in humility in front of God, and some, quite frankly, overpowered by tranquility and falling asleep during the sermon. It is what it is. But for a moment, I stopped and I thought to myself that if this can happen in the safest place, this one of the safest countries, in one of the safest places within a community, a religious facility, a mosque, then what is there to say that we won't be the next victims? And this thought has to push us to bring about change within our communities. This thought that we and none of us are safe from such acts of violence and terrorism needs to get us out of our comfort zones and push us to work together as religious leaders, as elected officials, as community members and citizens of this country to change the way that we live in this country. It is the responsibility of every single person in this room that we stand up against hate, and that anytime we hear someone spewing Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, that we are the first ones to speak out, because silence is complicity. To those with a voice, with a platform, with an audience, you have a responsibility that your articles, that your statements, that your comments do not border on hate and marginalization, or that perpetuate situations of suspicion and bigotry. People like the terrorist in New Zealand have been emboldened by the rhetoric coming from certain high-profile individuals. The Muslim community, as we sit here tonight, has pulled themselves together in New Zealand and have gathered for the very Friday prayer where their loved ones were killed. As we speak, It is Friday afternoon in New Zealand, and they have gathered together. And I can only imagine what an emotional prayer that will be for all of those Muslims and for all of the people of New Zealand, that after such a difficult week and after such horrific attacks, that we are giving a message to the world that we will not deter, that we will not stop, and that we will continue to be who we are, and what we will continue to do what we need to be real with ourselves and real to our communities. I want to end off with reminding ourselves that this is a teaching of our tradition, to always find optimism in everything, to always find hope in every situation, that no matter how difficult or hard, how dark your day may be, hold on to the light. And that light is what I see here tonight. This is hope. This is what Is it enough, however, for us to come together for a gathering of this sort, to come together to show our sympathies? Is this enough? I'm asking all of you a question tonight. Is this enough that we come together every couple of, or every few months and share our sympathies and our sadness with each other? Is this enough? No. I can't hear you loud enough. No. What we need to take from this is to mobilize ourselves and our communities to bring the change that we all want to see, to bring the change that we all have seen and the love that we have seen from the leadership of New Zealand and from the people of New Zealand, and to take lesson from this unfortunate situation. Thank you all again. I apologize for taking away from my time. I'd like to introduce Pastor Randy Nye from the Brew City Church. No, the clergy are requested to stay until all of the clergy have spoken. I apologize, but if you need to sit down, that's understandable.
Good evening. Clergy, don't worry, I'm going to be short. I'm going to be short this evening because I want to spend this evening listening and learning rather than talking. I'm a pastor of a faith community that sounds kind of crazy. It's called Brew City Church. And we are a evangelical Christian church. And I've got to tell you, I'm a little bit embarrassed as I stand up here today in front of you. It's no secret that people from my faith tradition have tolerated and even supported and been responsible for the kind of hatred that led to 51 lives being lost in Christchurch. So I have to ask you something very humbly. My Muslim friends, I ask this with as much humility as I can. On behalf of my faith tradition, would you forgive us?
Yes.
On behalf of my faith tradition, would you forgive us for tolerating and spewing hatred and bigotry? On behalf of my faith tradition, would you forgive us for condoning violence and accepting and even pushing white supremacy? Would you forgive us? Can I humbly ask if we can be part of this healing journey together? As I've grown in relationship and friendship with friends like Imam Hussein and Jinan and Dr. Shah behind me, what I've found in my Muslim friends is incredible amounts of wisdom, more than I have. What I've found in my Muslim friends is incredible amounts of humility. What I've found as an evangelical pastor in my Muslim friends are incredible amounts of respect and beauty and goodness. In the scriptures, we're told to mourn with those who mourn. And so I want to tell you, my Muslim friends, tonight, that we have been mourning with you. I want to tell you that we've been carrying you in our hearts and we've been praying for you. Those same scriptures, though, in all of our sacred texts, whether it's Muslim, Christian, Jewish, in all of our sacred texts, we find a different story. We're here because of a broken story. We're here tonight because of what happens when hatred gets expressed. But what we find in all of our holy texts is that love triumphs over hate. What we find in all of our sacred texts is that courage triumphs over fear. And what we find in all of our sacred texts is that unity is greater than division. And so I commit to you tonight, on behalf of my faith community, I commit to you tonight to being a champion for and an advocate for love rather than hate. I commit to you tonight to be an advocate for bravery, both in my evangelical brothers and sisters and my Muslim brothers and sisters. And I commit to you tonight to be an advocate for unity rather than division in Milwaukee, in the faith communities in Milwaukee, in the evangelical church, especially in Milwaukee. I'm humbled to stand with you and speak for many of you. And I'm even more humbled to stand with you in your mourning. To stand with you, a community that gets threatened in ways that I'll never dream of. In front of a community that has to live with fear in ways, in your families, in ways that I could never dream of. But I want to tell you, I want to stand with you in every way I can, and my faith community does as well. Thank you for having us.
I'd like to introduce Rabbi Mark Bergson.
Assalamu alaikum. I am here as one Jew, trying as best I can to speak on behalf of Milwaukee's Jewish community. As we mourn with you on the death of 51 brothers and sisters in New Zealand. As a colleague of mine shared at a similar vigil in her community, we stand with you in solidarity, with compassion as the ripples of fear have reached around the world. A few months ago, you stood with us in the Jewish community at our time of fear. As we stand with you in solidarity, with our shared commitment to religious freedom. Yet more, for fear and hatred have come to our religious sanctuaries, to our places of safety and warmth and love and devotion, to Al-Nur and Linwood in Christchurch, the Tree of Life in Pittsburgh, to Emmanuel AME in Charleston, to the Sikh Temple in Oak Creek. Yet more, for we all know the power of the Word. That is how the all-merciful Eternal One creates, by speaking. And we, as God's children, we can create with our words. We all know from the Bible and from the Quran of the power of the tongue. So let our words speak out against words that destroy. Let our words speak out against hatred, against Islamophobia, against racism, against anti-Semitism, against bigotry. Let us speak loudly those words which created this country, where all are created equal, with the unalienable rights of life, of liberty, and of the pursuit of happiness. As we, the people, all of us, the people, seek to form a more perfect union. And let our words speak loudly around the world, including words we should be hearing from our leaders, as we defend God's creations from destruction. May the all-compassionate one who makes peace in the high heavens above continue to give us the strength to make peace here on earth. As I now call upon Dr. Sori Duror of the Sikh community.
My honorable guests, members of the Islamic Society, and members of Muslim Society of Wisconsin. On behalf of the Sikh Religious Society of Wisconsin and Sikh Temple of Wisconsin, Oak Creek, we express our deep condolences for the departed souls, and we heartfully pray for the people who are hurt badly. Our churches, our synagogues, our mosques, our temples are supposed to be places of peace, prayers, and respect. Over time, we find that we have trouble, a lot of massacres in synagogues, in temples of our Wisconsin Oak Creek, our churches, and so on. When we go to our temple, we feel that perhaps we don't get any peace anymore. We are surrounded by guns. Everybody's carrying guns around because they're afraid that somebody could come and take their life. And we tell them, please, you are here to do prayers, so don't need guns. And they say, no, we have our security people standing outside. So if we have security people standing outside, protecting our temples, that's conspiracy. 7 of the 51 folks, our friends, our people who were killed, they were from India. And I read their stories, and you saw their names on the stage. One case hurt me badly. That case, I could not brought tears to my eyes. I could not handle it. That case was Ramvir's Vora. Ramvir's Vora was expecting their first child. And wife was in hospital, get ready for delivery. Expecting that grandparents, Arif Vora and his wife, they came from India, from Hyderabad, India. They came specially to welcome their first grandchild. They were there. So then they took, they were most beautiful young girl, beautiful girl, delivery. They took the baby home. Then to say thanks to God, thanks to Allah, they came to El Nur Mosque to say their prayers. Both he and his father. came to say prayers. And now you can imagine both were killed. If both are, and his son and brothers are killed. Now baby is only 5 days old. 5 days old baby. Mom is still recovering from the baby. And her mother-in-law just came from India, cannot speak English, can't communicate. So here we have faced that child will not know who her father was. What happened to his grandfather? No. That reminded me of my own history, my own life. I was 7-year-old when partition of India took place in 1947. There was a lot of hatred, and we would have been killed. Our whole family would have been killed. But our neighbor, Muslim family, stood up against hate. They said, no way we're going to let you die. They put their own life at risk to save our life. Is it amazing? To save our life. They stood up against hate. Muslim family. People could have come and killed them, but they said no. We cannot let that happen. My 2 uncles were burned alive. They were working in a textile factory. In textile factory got fire, they put a fire, and my 2 uncles were burned alive. So I can tell you that what their families went through, what we went through, I can still, after 71 years, I can still count all the dead bodies floating all around, all the issues. So we had so much, you can never forget what happens. And now if I look at that little baby, when she will grow up, and she will hear over and over again, what happened? What happened to my dad? So we're saying that all we have to stand up against hate. We pray over and over again. Please, God, forgive us. Bring us peace, and we request our leaders to please make stand. Don't let anything. Keep pushing that we have to respect for all the religions. We have to respect for immigrants. Color of skin does not matter. Ethnicity does not matter. That's all I can say. My prayers are always with you, and we want to work very hard so that hopefully in my lifetime, we will be able to achieve some peace. Thank you very much.
And then our last speaker from the faith leaders, Dr. John Walton from the American Baptist Church.
Good evening. I'm the Reverend Dr. John Richard Walton, Jr., the senior pastor of Calvary Baptist Church of Milwaukee, representing solidarity shared by the judicatories of the Interfaith Conference of Greater Milwaukee and as a member of the American Baptist Churches of Wisconsin under the leadership of Dr. Marie Onwubu Ariri. In a March 20th article entitled, "In Wake of Mass Shooting, New Zealand's Ardern Calls for Global Fight Against Racism," Dalia Mortada wrote that in response to one of his countrymen being charged with murder, former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd pointed to a, quote, global social media ecosystem of hatred as responsible for the rise of far-right or alt-right ideology and, quote, Islamophobic, highly racist, unquote, sentiment. The shooter, Mortada says, wrote about a white genocide in a lengthy screed he published minutes before he carried out his attack. While I dare not attempt an authoritative answer to the question as to why he did what he did, I ask you to consider the following as we try to learn why we see such an uptick in hate speech and white nationalist fervor here in North America and in various places of the world today. I am not so much focused on him as I am the culture which socialized him. This type of socialization goes on all around us. In an article entitled, "Avoiding Last Place, Some Things We Don't Outgrow," Princeton professor Ileana Kuzimko writes, quote, "People near the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder often oppose policies that help those below them. The phenomenon is called last place aversion." Kuzimko says, quote, "It's the basic human need to avoid feeling like we ourselves are in last place." She says, or maybe put a bit more negatively, it's our need to feel like there's at least one person we can feel superior to or look down on. We've seen this repeatedly in this country. As Kuzimko reports, she has found last place aversion throughout U.S. history, including the Jim Crow laws. One study she found argues that Jim Crow was more important to poor Southern whites than it was to the wealthier plantation class. At the end of the day, just as biting mosquitoes prefer stagnant water in which to breed, white nationalism needs a place to breed also. And everyone in this room knows that we need not travel to Australia to find it. This is why interfaith relationships are so vitally important. We may not all believe or worship the same way, but we all must live in the world together and respect each other and each other in agape love. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. I want to thank my fellow faith leaders for being here tonight with us, and you are welcome to go back to your seats. Thank you.
Thank you to all the faith leaders that stood in that marathon session. I I just think I should tell you that, Ramadan is coming soon in May, and we have marathon prayers, and I think that Imam Hussein thought that he would get the whole clergy to kind of get a feel for it. So thank you for doing that. I'd like to now invite our elected officials. We'll start with the Honorable Congresswoman Gwen Moore, always been a friend of the Muslim community.
Assalamu alaikum. Shalom and hello. And in the interest of time, I won't mention all the groups that are here. I'll just say hello, family. We're gathered here again this evening, and it reminds me of being in Charlottesville. It reminds me of being over at the synagogue, remembering the victims of the Tree of Life temple. It reminds me of being at the Sikh temple in Oak Creek. And I think the clergy have said it very well tonight, the lessons that they have shared with us, that really only light can drive out darkness, and that each of us has a responsibility to light that one little candle and to show the love and drive out the hate in our society. Who knows that maybe if someone had shown some love to some of these terrorists, as the imams and the clergy have shared with us, just shown some love to them, maybe they could have driven this hate out of them. So I am in solidarity with all of you, and I bring you greetings from the constituents of the 4th Congressional District of Wisconsin, and that is the city of Milwaukee, Cudahy, St. Francis, West Milwaukee, South Milwaukee, Shorewood, Whitefish Bay, Fox Point, Glendale, Brown Deer, Shorewood. I am speaking in solidarity for each and every one of them, because I know that they stand in solidarity with the people of New Zealand and with the people in this room. We will win. We will light our candles and drive out the darkness. Love drives out hate. Thank you for that message tonight.
Thank you, Congresswoman Moore. I'd like to now invite the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, a good friend of mine.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Also, in the interest of time, I do want to ask for elected officials just to stand up, not to speak, just to stand up for a second, because you should be recognized as people who are willing to take a stand, people who are not going to be silent in the face of hate. Complicit in it is people who recognize that there are not very fine people on both sides of this issue. Now, whether it's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, whether it's Charlotte, South Carolina, Christchurch, New Zealand, or right here in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, we have a duty, we have a responsibility to speak up, to speak out, to do more than just show love and beautiful displays of unity like this, but to call out hate for what it is. We can't be afraid to call out hate, to call out acts of terror and white supremacist violence in our community, in our society, because it must stop. And the only way it stops is when we come together as a community, and when we are bold in the way that we respond to it. There are still people who have yet to condemn these acts. There are still people who are okay with this happening. And those are the same purveyors of hate, provocateurs of terror, not just in America as we see, but across the globe. And as was said earlier, these people are in high places. And not only should they call these acts out, we need to call them out. For the last few speeches I gave around the Martin Luther King holiday, I talked about a part of a Langston Hughes poem and a portion where he said, "America was never America to me, but I swear on my oath, on this oath, America will be." This room is what America is. This room is what the future is. This room is what we should all continue to strive towards. As a response to the senseless acts of violence, we respond with selfless love. We respond with dedication. We respond with solidarity. And I'm so proud to stand here with you today. I'm so proud to continue to stand with you. Thank you so much for the rest of the elected officials in the room. Thank you so much for having me. You don't have to thank me for being here. It is an honor for me to be here to speak to you today, because we will get this done. We will win with love.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Next, I'd like to invite Mayor Tom Barrett. I always feel my age when I see him because I still remember way back when he was a congressman.
I changed the color of my hair just so there'd be no confusion as to when I was a congressman. Well, it is gratifying to see this room filled tonight. This is what America is. This is what Milwaukee is. That's right. And I couldn't be prouder. And I wish you could stand here and see you. Because we are the ones who are the change. I have to be very honest with you. I was walking to an event early in the morning when I got the news as to what happened. And my first reaction was actually numbness. It was numbness because I've heard this before. I've seen this before. I felt this before. My next emotion was sadness. Because soon the television started filling with the pictures that we saw here. That we saw that these were fathers and mothers who lost their children, or children who lost their parents. And it became real all of a sudden that, oh my God, it's happening again. So the numbness was replaced by sorrow. But I'm a human being, and like anybody else, that was replaced in part, because the sadness remained, by anger. And I was so happy that you didn't name the individual. He does not deserve to be named. And that takes some determination. And that's the fourth emotion that I felt. And I hope that that is the emotion or the feeling that every person in this room has right now. I've gone through the numbness, I feel the sorrow, I harbor the anger, but I need the determination. Because this is not going to change if we allow our president, other elected officials, to just feed the flames of the fire. And let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. We have a president of the United States that is fostering, and halfway around the globe, someone was affected by that. We have to be the agents of change. That's what makes America great, the democracy in this country. To say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. But I have to share something else with you outside the realm of the politics. Because it just is such a mystery to me. In my faith, we talk about the mystery of faith. It's a mystery to me, after seeing all of these faith leaders up here, how anyone on this planet thinks that anyone's God or creator, whatever you want to call it, thinks we should be killing other people as to how they worship. That is what I don't get. I just don't get it. We all want to have a feeling in our lives that we're here on this earth for something beyond just ourselves. So we have a creator, different face, different ways we look at it. But there's no religion that says people should be hated because they worship some other way. How do we let this happen? We have to be the ones to change it. So the last emotion is the emotion that the Congressman talked about, is the emotion of love. Because that's what it's going to be all about. When we're lying on our deathbed, every person here, I'm guessing, is going to be thinking about someone they love. At least we hope. We're lucky if we can end our life thinking about someone that we love. And what we need to do as human beings is to work to love more people, to understand people who are different from us. What I say about the city of Milwaukee is every single person in the city of Milwaukee is a minority. Every single person. There is no racial group in the city of Milwaukee that's a majority. So we need to be together as a community, as a city, as a state, as a nation. I'm proud that our police chief, Chief Morales, is here. I'm proud that our district attorney, John Cruiser, is here. We need leadership that understands. But I want to thank all of you for being here and to tell you that my determination is not going to end. And I believe there's not a person in this room who doesn't share that determination to drive out hate and replace it with love. God bless you.
Thank you, Mayor Barrett. Next, I'd like to ask all four of our next speakers. We have to come up here, Alex Edwards from the NAACP, Marcello Gallardo from Voces de la Frontera, Dr. Rachel Buff from Jewish Voice for Peace, and Mehau Mua from the Southeast Asian Educational Development of Wisconsin.
First and foremost, I would like to say that my heart goes out to those who lost their life in this terrible tragedy. I actually watched the live stream video of this horrendous event on social media, and I just could not believe what my eyes were seeing. I almost thought it was a video game, but it's just a shame that this hate is able to exist in our nation, in our world here today. My name is Alex Edwards. I am the third vice president of the Milwaukee NAACP, and I bring greetings from our president, Fred Royal. Unfortunately, he was unable to be here today. He wants our Muslim brothers and sisters to know that we stand with you all in solidarity in this time of grief. We condemn this act of terrorism. And at this time, I would like everybody to stand. Let's stand in love. Let's stand in peace. Let's stand for justice. And let's stand against hate. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. I am Marcelo Gallardo. I represent Voces de la Frontera. I am in the educational side. Those are some of my students. And I remember last year when the President of the United States was talking, no very nice word coming from the top, insulting my students, I decided to step out and say, this is wrong. What kind of education those kids are receiving over there? So I decided, no, we are going to stand up and not going to tolerate that. So we were planning, and last year we were raising some money, and we went to Washington, D.C. with some of those kids to speak up about discrimination, of course, about immigration, because our school is affected for that. Some people, they don't believe in climate change, and we were talking about that too. Public education, that was other topic. So Iman Noman, we are doing things. This is the way to do it, teaching the kids that they have the right to defend themselves. And they were doing a good job in Washington. So this is the hope. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening. Bonjour. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. I want to thank my very treasured comrades here at the ISM for having this event tonight. I think it's important to come together and grieve, and I'm very appreciative and honored to be present. On October 27th, 2018, it was Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath, the Saturday. I was walking with my family. It was a beautiful October day. The leaves were gold. I was very happy. And I looked at my phone. Never check your phone on Shabbat. And there was a text from my best friend who's not Jewish. It said, "I'm so sorry." I've lived in this regime by then for 2 years, and I knew that she wasn't talking about having borrowed my sweatshirt and lost it. I knew she was talking about serious business, so then I found out about Pittsburgh. I start with that anecdote about someone I love because I think it's an example of what we're doing here tonight, an example of solidarity. And I think we know what we're talking about, and that's important. And in the time since then, when we've seen, painfully for me, mainstream Jewish community condemning a young congresswoman who's trying to articulate her perspectives on the world, come up with charges of anti-Semitism against Ilhan Omar, I don't think that that's solidarity in the way that I want to see it. When we see people who walk together in what I call the beautiful human act of solidarity of the caravans, because they have to leave their homes, when we see them walk across nations and rivers and mountains and are greeted with military, I don't think that's the kind of solidarity we want to see. When we see the peaceful and brave Great March of Return in Palestine met with violence, including the murder of medics, that is not the solidarity we want to see. And that brings us to March 15th and the massacre at Christ Church, which I want to point out is an act that comes out of another global network of white supremacist, Islamophobic solidarity that we must be very careful about. We've heard a lot of beautiful words and important words tonight about love, and we need to do the courageous and constant act of standing together. I'm one of the few people in this room tonight who's not clergy, it turns out. But I'm going to close with a prayer I wrote after Pittsburgh. It's called Prayer for the Outrage Machine. Outrage is my spine. It pulls me upright in the morning. It draws me to the keyboard, drives me into the streets. I wake in the still hours. Outrage is my companion. For the empty classrooms and those overfilled with children, for double-dealing judges and the houseless man who got a $237 ticket for living in the park down my street. Outrage is my spine. It lifts my head, opens my mouth, and I'm talking, explaining, exhorting, declaiming, reasoning to keep from screaming. Outrage is my voice. For the creatures that perish in wildfire and the people walking across borders, for those killed at prayer, for guns, 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 everywhere. Outrage is my spine. I breathe in and out, unfurling the column of bones. I pray for the strength to bend, to attend, to listen, to hear the soft animal of soul as it curls around me.
Tonight, we, the Asian and Pacific Islanders of Milwaukee, are joining you, our Muslim brothers and sisters, in this unfortunate time of sadness, in memory of the many lives that was lost during the hate crime in New Zealand. We, the Asian and Pacific Islander Americans, stand in solidarity to call for justice for the families who lost their loved ones. We have worked alongside our Muslim brothers and sisters to help build a stronger and safer community. We will continue to share our work, our support, and our love for one another, especially during this unfortunate time. All of the families are in our thoughts, in our prayers, and we will walk hand in hand in solidarity with you, and I mean each and every one of you, regardless of our ethnicity, our race, our religion, wherever we came from. We are here as a community, as a family of Milwaukee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on your program, on the back, there's a pledge of unity and solidarity. And I'd like to invite Uthman Atta to lead that pledge. We're going to read it together.
I want to first thank everyone for being here. It is really heartwarming to see everyone and your support and how we are all one family in this together, regardless of who the victim is. I'm going to read this, and I ask you to follow along. If you'd like to read along, that's fine as well. We pledge to stand in solidarity with one another, to serve our communities, and to stand against any attempt to attack or harm the well-being of any community. We will not allow our spirits to be crushed or our commitment to be compromised. We commit to celebrating our shared humanity, solidarity between racial, ethnic, religious, and other communities is what binds us together and inspires us to move forward toward a more inclusive and peaceful future. We pledge to maintain our houses of worship, all of them, regardless of religious affiliation, as places of refuge, safety, and tranquility. We pledge to help this community come together, united across varying backgrounds and political ideologies. We pledge to reject and confront hateful speech and political rhetoric that seeks to dehumanize, divide, and isolate our communities. We pledge not to be passive, indifferent, or silent observers when we see or hear hate. We pledge not to be intimidated from speaking out for the rights of the powerless in our society, the oppressed, and those who have been victimized by hate or violence. We pledge to speak out in defense of our shared ideals and values, and to speak truth to power and evil. The call in our faith to love thy neighbor contains no limitation, boundary, or wall. We commit to embracing the humanity of one another, despite any differences that may exist in our beliefs, views, traditions, or politics. Where we disagree, we pledge to uphold the principles of civil discourse and dialogue, devoid of hate speech and disparaging language. We pledge that we will not allow xenophobia, racism, bigotry, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, or any other form of hate to cause us despair or hopelessness. We pledge to strengthen our resolve and our commitment to uphold what is right as we work to reinforce the diverse fabric of our community and country. We pledge to vote and hold our elected officials accountable to the values that we all share. We pledge to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities against all forms of ignorance and intolerance, and to stand together, united for peace and justice. Thank you. I would like to end the program by calling Hafiz Shafiq, who will do a prayer. Again, I thank you all for attending, and we're all in this together. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you. Let's pray to the one who is all-knowing, all-hearing, all-seeing, the one who answers to your prayers from wherever you pray to him. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. We pray and ask you, O God Almighty, to grant the martyrs of New Zealand the highest place in paradise. Our Lord, ease the burden on anyone who lost a loved one in this terrorist attack. Give comfort to their families. We ask you, Ya Allah, to grant the wounded and injured a speedy recovery. Give them and their families strength to overcome this tragedy. Our Lord, bless all those who place their lives at risk to save the victims, and to those who continue to work tirelessly in these dark and difficult days. Our Lord, guide anyone who has any ill feeling in their hearts in regards to other fellow human beings. Our Lord, those agents of terror and prejudice who lost their sense of humanity and caused these acts of terror in New Zealand, in Pittsburgh, in Charlottesville, in Las Vegas, in Oak Creek, in the mosques, synagogues, churches, and schools, and other places in this country and all over the world. O Allah, O God, please guide them. Help them and us to understand each other, celebrate the similarities between us, and appreciate the differences. Our Lord, guide the leaders who for their own political gains divide us and promote hatred among the people for their own political gains. Ya Allah, guide them. O Allah, grant us victory against Ya Allah, grant us victory against our inner enemies, ignorance, ego, arrogance, anger, selfishness, hypocrisy, jealousy, prejudice, and hate. Our Lord, help us stand against racism, violence, injustice, war, corruption, oppression. God of all creation, bring justice and peace to our world, especially the lands where people have been suffering and living with terror for many years, in Syria, Yemen, Palestine, Kashmir, Burma, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, in Xinjiang, China, and many other countries in the world. Our God, we pray to you for an end to fear and for comfort and support to those who suffer from these calamities. Amen.